We'll expect engine ignition at 8.9 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, ignition sequence started. All engines are started. We have ignition, 2, 1, 0. We have a liftoff. We have a liftoff, and it's lighting up the area. It's just like daylight here at Kennedy Space Center as the Saturn V is moving off the pad. It has now cleared the tower.
My name is Gary Fildes and I'm the director of the Kielder Observatory in Northumberland, the United Kingdom. And I've came here to sunny California, to Pasadena, for Space Fest 2014. And the reason I've came here is because some of the most important people in the history of space exploration have gathered here, including men who walked on the moon. Born in 1934, Gene Cernan is a retired American naval officer, fighter pilot and NASA astronaut. He has been into space 3 times, as pilot of Gemini 9A in June 1966, as lunar module pilot of Apollo 10 in May 1969, and as commander of Apollo 17 in December 1972, the final Apollo lunar landing. On Apollo 17, Cernan accompanied the only geologist, Harrison Jack Schmitt, ever to walk on another world, and is himself now famously known as the last man on the moon.
Well, my name is Gene Cernan. I guess I started out as a young boy with a dream, became a naval aviator, and along the way, in a couple space flights previously, I was able to call the moon my home on Apollo 17.
Apollo 17 was quite a voyage for humanity, I guess, because, and you, of course, were the last man to walk on the moon.
Yeah, I've been branded the last man, but I don't think I'm the last man. I'm absolutely convinced that there's a young boy or a young girl out there with the indomitable will and courage that it's going to take to bring us, mankind, back to the moon and eventually onto Mars. Now, I won't live to see that, but it will happen. It's absolutely sure as I am sitting here that it will happen.
And that's a really important message, isn't it, for the youngsters and anyone who wants to be enthused about the future of spaceflight and science in general?
Yeah, I think one of the obligations someone like me has, who's done something like my colleagues and myself have done, is to give back a little bit, share with people who wanted to be part of it, who weren't, share with people who watched it, as it unfolded, a generation or two since then, kids, my kids, grandkids, and yours and others, and to inspire them with the idea, first of all, if you can make learning fun, get a kid's attention, make learning fun, you can teach them anything. Now, you tell me something that's more fun than aviation in space. And what I feel very strongly about is that we need to inspire those young kids to dream about the impossible and then go make it happen, to develop a level of confidence in self and have some goals in life so they can make a difference in their generation. I was given a lot of opportunities I never expected, and I tell kids never to count yourself out. I'm a young kid with a dream during World War II. Ended up, living on the moon for 3 days. How crazy is that? And I can look at an audience, the young kids, I don't care from what country, what color, what size, what shape, and say there's nothing you can't do if you want to do it badly enough, if you're willing, honestly, to take the risk to do it, because you never get something for nothing in this world. If you're willing to give of yourself, you believe in yourself strong enough, you tell me what you can't do. I walked on the moon when your mom and dad were in diapers, so give me a break. I mean, there is dream the impossible, go out and make it happen. My dad used to tell me, he said, son, I'm never going to ask any more of you than to do your best. And he said, And I promise you, someday, if you do your best, you're going to surprise yourself. But, caveat, he said, nobody knows what their best is and whether they're doing their best except you. You're the only one you have to answer to. That's the message. Don't count yourself out. Dream big. You know, always shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. I got a lot of those I can pass on to kids. And you know what? If 1 out of 10 kids out in that audience takes home and remembers what you said, from my point of view, I walk away a winner. 1 out of 10 kids. I'd like to think it's more than that, but that's what the future's all about. You know, who knew when I was a kid? Jules Verne, you know, funny papers going to the moon? It's impossible. Even when Kennedy, back in 1961, and I was about 27-year-old young naval aviator, said, we're going to go to the moon. Kennedy, after 15 minutes, 16 minutes of Alan Shepard's flight up and down, okay, folks, guess we're smart enough to go to the moon. We didn't know beans about going to the moon. He challenged the American people to do what most thought was impossible, and the rest is history. What most people thought couldn't be done, and I was one of those. And so I grew up in that world, and all of a sudden got thrust into that challenge, was selected for a space program without even applying, because I didn't think I was qualified. I didn't meet all the requirements that NASA had. And I went from that point in my life to being selected, to being a second American walking in space, to go to the moon twice, to live on the moon for 3 days of my life. It's a fairy tale.
As I step off at the surface at Taurus Littrow, we'd like to dedicate the first steps of Apollo 17 to all those who made it possible. That's beautiful. This has got to be one of the most proud moments of my life, I guarantee you.
We've got to leave future generations with something that they can build upon, with a foundation that they can reach from as we had an opportunity into the future. Who would have, I'm going back, I didn't ever dream about going to the moon, much less flying in space. And here I am talking to you. It's almost, how bizarre can it be for me to sit here and talk to you about having lived on the moon? And I went there not once but twice. So, you know, I had a chance to challenge my feelings. I always said, flying in Earth orbit is wonderful. Fly around the world every 90 minutes, fly over a river, a coastline, a city, maybe even your own hometown. 16 sunrises and sunsets in 24 hours. Sounds great, and it is. But when you go to the moon, when you head out away from home for a rendezvous with this body in space we've chosen to call the moon, things become different. Technologically, it's a different space program. But it's also different philosophically, because you have to rationalize where you are at that moment in time and space and history when you're standing on the moon. And it's a different space program spiritually, because you find yourself, you know, we call it the heavens. Well, you're in the heavens. It was like sitting on God's front porch. When I left the moon and I looked down at my final footsteps, I knew I wasn't coming this way again. Someone would, but it wouldn't be me. And I'm trying to, what did we in our generation, not just Apollo 17, what did we accomplish? What was the meaning of what we had done? And I couldn't come up with an answer, and we may not have an answer for another 50 or 100 years. Who knows? But I know we did something. Oh, we were extension of technology, certainly. But what did it mean that we lived on a, if you allow me, another planet in this universe? You know, think about it. 12 people. There's only 12 people who have stepped on something solid other than Earth. And that really got my attention when I stepped on the moon. But those last steps, when I looked over my shoulder and looked at the Earth, that's been our identity with reality, the real world we live in, our, you know, life and love and family are all back there. I wanted to come back to be able to tell you and whoever might be listening, the rest of the world, particularly the younger people of the world, what it was like. I wanted to reach out and grab that beautiful Earth and tuck it in my spacesuit and bring it home and say, hey, here's what it looks like. Here's what it feels like. That wasn't possible. And so I came, as I say, I came home with somewhat of an empty feeling, because you can't answer those questions with a phrase or two or a word. It's an emotional experience that you have to find a way to relate to people. And I know now, 15 years later, after my book came out, that I think I've accomplished that, because I didn't want it to be a technical book. I wanted it to be me talking to you. People say, did you think you weren't getting back? And I said, I wouldn't have gone if I didn't think I was getting back. I didn't go to be a martyr. I knew I was coming back. I had the best piece of hardware built by the best people in the world, and I had a lot of confidence in myself to be able to do what needed to be done to come back home. And let's get on with it and do it, and then we'll figure out what it really meant. And as I say, we're still figuring out today what it really meant. We took that first step into the universe. It's mind-boggling. Endlessness of time and the endlessness of space. How far does that go on? What else is out there? Where did we come from? Is there life on Mars? Is there, you know, I don't have answers to those questions. And you know what? We may, if we live for another millennium, we may never find all the answers, but they're out there. And we're gonna step by step, it's called discovery. The essence of human existence is curiosity. Curiosity, we all want to know. This is our chance. We can't blow it. Go for the goal. Don't be satisfied with anything less. Go for the goal. Make the impossible happen. If you believe in it and believe in yourself, you can do it. There is no, take the word impossible out of your vocabulary. It doesn't exist. There's nothing we can't do if we want to do it badly enough. And if those who preceded us gave us the opportunity, and that's the real key.
This closes a golden chapter in the age of space exploration. In a way, it brings a close to what has been a very romantic era in space exploration. But, I want to make this very strong, the book is still being written.
The moon, a lonely world in the absence of man. But here we have left our mark, a signature attesting a legacy to future generations. We stood on the shoulders of giants and touched the moon.